What's up, everybody? It's Peter Tragos, the lawyer you know, and on this channel, we break down the trials and cases you care most about so you can understand how the American civil and criminal justice system works. And we try to make sure you understand what your rights are in every situation, which is why we try to walk you through the entire legal process while also answering your insightful questions along the way. And while it's not legal advice, it's always exciting. So buckle up for another episode of The Lawyer You Know. What's up, everybody? Yes, we're starting a little early today because we cannot mess around. We've got no time to mess around. We've got a bit of a marathon plan for you as stuff is happening. So let me give you just a quick rundown, and everyone that's here early in the chat is going to have to help me remind people that come a little bit later what we're doing here, okay? So we are starting today with this video on the DMs, the Instagram DMs. We're going to talk gag order. We're going to talk about issues with this, but we're going to talk about how something so simple like this can be a big deal in a trial where you don't necessarily have a connection and you might not have a motive. We're going to talk about how prosecutors use that information and how defense attorneys can respond and what they're going to do, okay? So we're going to do that first. Then we're going to redirect to a video giving an overview about Alex Murdaugh and this trial that's starting on January 23rd. Okay. And that's an important video, and I want to get it out there. It's not going to be overly long. We're going to go through a quick synopsis of what's going on, what we can expect to hear. And I want to take a look at the lawyers because some very interesting lawyers in that case that we're going to be watching together. I want to give you some background, talk to you about them a little bit, so we can know what's going on. All right. Then something that's not even up on YouTube yet. So that was the plan, those two lives back to back. But because we just got word that the search warrant has been unsealed, it's been sent to me. I have not had a chance to look through it. It's 50 pages long, but I think 20 of those pages is a repeat of the probable cause affidavit. So we've got a 30-page document to look through. Why did it get unsealed early? The prosecutors would have had to file a motion to unseal it because it was just going to be sealed until March 1st. So they filed the motion to unseal it. Why? How did it get unsealed? What did they give in order to get that search warrant of his residence in Washington? And then what did they find and how are they going to use it? Okay. All that and more. And of course, as always, I'm going to answer your questions, but there's going to be 2 redirects. So we're going to see how it does. We're going to see how we do today with all this redirecting. If one stream ends, go to our YouTube page if you don't automatically get redirected so you can jump into that next chat because I don't want to lose any of you with all these redirects. We're just trying to keep these videos split per topic because when we do more than one topic sometimes because people aren't used to it and we try to keep them to 1 hour. I don't go 4 hours on some of these with all these chapter spaces like a lot of awesome channels do. So I'm going to just split them into 3 videos. Hopefully we don't lose too many people. Hopefully you can watch now or later. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe, do all the things, get in the comments, ask your questions, but let's jump to it. Okay. I'm going to try not to be too sporadic today. All right. Now, allegedly, and there are some red flags, I hope a lot of you already could see the red flags when this was initially reported. Unnamed investigator alleges DMs from Kohberger to one of the victims. We don't know what the victim is, and we don't even know what the DMs are. We did get a vague explanation of it was just something simple like, hello, how are you? And he was persistent. And a lot of news articles and mainstream media left it at that. He was persistent. He kept messaging them regardless of the fact that they did not message him back. But then others with a more full report said, we couldn't even tell if these messages were seen or read because they went to the requested tab, which is when it's funny when you see mainstream media try to explain this like you're explaining it to grandpa, what a requested message is. But a lot of people don't know that. I didn't know that until we started doing like a business page like this where we have tons of messages coming in from people that don't follow us or we don't follow or whatever. So it goes to the requested message page. You may never see it. These victims may have never seen it. And they even went as far as to say this, anonymous report from somebody on the investigation team said it didn't seem like he was getting angry, right? What was the, she may not have seen them because they went into the message request. We're still trying to determine how aware the victims were of his existence. So still might not even be a connection. There's no indication that he was getting frustrated with her lack of response, but he was definitely persistent. Okay. So maybe not as damning as you initially thought, but most places are reporting this as hook, line, and sinker. We now have the motive. He liked one of these girls. They didn't like him. It's rejection. And boom, now we have the motive of why he did all of this horrible stuff. I mean, here's what I'll say. We have been looking for a connection. We have been looking for motive. And I can understand why people think this, because this is the most common motive, as we've said, for a crime of passion, which this seemed to be. And it's not far-fetched that a college age-ish guy slid into some DMs of a college age-ish girl and it didn't work out and he got mad and flipped and lost it, right? That is not far-fetched. I can understand why people are connecting these dots. But let's talk about the gag order. This is exactly what the gag order is trying to prevent. Half-truths without context and without scrutiny. We don't know when these messages were sent, how often they were sent, why they were sent, what the follow-ups were. Why did he say that he wasn't getting frustrated? How would he know that? How was he getting inside Bryan Kohberger's head? The fact that we have, if this even is a fact that comes out in evidence, is that he did send a message to them. That's the fact we have, right? Assuming that it's true and assuming that it's actually going to come out. That does not prove he hit on him, wanted to take him out on a date, was even interested in him, and they rejected him. That doesn't prove that, right? So we have to be careful with certain facts that don't actually come in as fact. But what can a prosecutor do? Sorry, I was talking about the gag order. So the gag order is supposed to prevent things like this specifically for this reason, because if it's not reported by the prosecutor or by a named law enforcement officer, then they don't have to be held accountable for what they say. If a prosecutor says something in a media interview, right, where everybody comes to the courthouse and they're giving a media interview and they say something, they're held accountable for that. They're the prosecutor on this case. They can't do anything unethical. They can't lie. They can't do things like that, right? So that's really important. But when you have a gag order, the prosecutor's not officially doing things like that. Law enforcement is not officially doing things like that. So with this, where there's no accountability with an anonymous, unnamed investigator source, that's why things like this can leak out without potentially proper context. Although it does seem like this person did try to give proper context and some mainstream media just left it out. And so that's why it's really difficult to hear stuff like this, because it's got to be frustrating to the judge. It's got to be frustrating to the defense attorney that this stuff leaks out. And what are people doing? They're using it to prove a motive. They're using it to connect all these dots and just go. Cerebellum, yes, we are going to get to that. That's video number 3 today. But I'm going to try not to be distracted here by some of the chats, because you guys are great. And I love just getting involved in the conversation with the chat. Okay, so if this is a fact, how can the prosecutor actually use it? Because if this is the only fact that he said, hey, how are you, and was persistent but not frustrated, how can a prosecutor use something like that? Well, if Bryan Kohberger takes the stand, she can question him. How'd you feel? She can even, or he or she, the prosecutor, can say things like, you felt rejected, didn't you? She wasn't responding, was she? That made you mad. Sure, they can do that. They can put that context on it. They can make the jury think if he takes the stand and they cross-examine him. Number 2, it's a stretch, but they might be able to get an expert on today's day and age, the psychology of being rejected by somebody online, or not getting a response to the DM, or not getting enough likes on a picture, and how that affects your brain and how that can drive you crazy and get you frustrated, right? All right. So those are 2 ways they could use it. But let's talk about the 2 main ways. Number 1, questioning the investigator that pulled these messages off the phone, or however they got them, based on the victim's phone, the defendant's phone, however it is that they got these DMs, and ask questions like this. How'd you get this? Where'd you get it? What did you find? Well, we find that Kohberger was sending these messages. He sent 13 messages, or however many he sent. Okay. What did the messages say? Hey, how are you? How you doing? Whatever. Did the victim ever respond? No. The defense is going to have to cross-examine on message requests and how the victim may have never seen it, and the victim didn't actually reject Bryan Kohberger, things like that. But if you're the prosecutor, you just ask, did the victim ever respond? No. Never? Never. Not after message 5? No. Not after message 6? No. And he kept sending these messages? Yes. So after all these attempts, the victim never responded to him once, did she? It's a leading question, but that's the kind of information they can pull. And you can see how this little piece of evidence that doesn't actually prove a ton, it definitely doesn't prove motive on its own, but a prosecutor can carefully craft questions in a way that can put in the jury's mind that this is motive and this rejection is exactly what happened. Yeah, DM is direct message, sorry. And then, fourth and most importantly, the way that the prosecutor should drive a truck through this is in closing argument. Because in closing argument, you're allowed to do a number of things. You're allowed to summarize the evidence. You're allowed to connect dots. You're allowed to argue where you think the evidence points. That's why it's called closing arguments. But you can also make reasonable inferences based on the evidence. So you can't say things like, if in the closing argument, the prosecutor says something like, he sent these messages, she didn't respond. Those are two facts and evidence if this comes in, and he got mad. That could be objection, facts not in evidence, because there's nobody to testify that he actually got mad. Now, some judges will allow that as an appropriate argument or reasonable inference from the evidence, but even if they want to be on the safe side as a prosecutor, they can say things like, and when people don't get responses on Instagram, they get mad, they get angry, and make it a general argument because now you're just purely arguing. And when people get mad, they do unthinkable things. That's not a fact and evidence. That's an argument. So the prosecutor is going to be able to, at the very least, question an investigator in a way that lets everybody know Kohberger continued to persistently reach out and message these victims, and they never responded, and then connect the dots later, make reasonable inferences in closing argument to argue that this is the motive and the connection we're waiting on. That's why these DMs, the fact that they were leaked, to me, this is the main reason it's frustrating, right? Because we have these questions. We have these questions here. What's the connection? What's the motive? That's a big question we've been asking. So when something like this comes out, it almost feels like somebody on the law enforcement side or the prosecutorial side wants to answer that question for all of us. Right? They want us to talk about it. They want us to speculate that this is the motive and this is the connection. And while I just explained how a prosecutor could try to use that to prove motive, we need to understand that on its own and just this leaked evidence does not prove motive. Because a defense attorney can come up and also say, cross-examining any witness, how many 28-year-old guys or college guys you think slide into DMs? How many of them you think don't get responded to? How many of them you think get rejected? So is that a reasonable inference to think they just go murder every girl that rejects them in DMs? Does the fact that he messaged her, hey, how are you? And she didn't respond, that proves he killed her? Let's go look at Brian Kohberger's other DMs and see how many other women that he DM'd and never responded to him. Are they still alive? Well, that kind of blows your argument apart, doesn't it? Because if every dude that got rejected in DMs was accused of murder, there'd be some problems, right? I mean, there are some problems. I see Kurt's in the chat. I saw a bunch of people saying hello, Kurt, but this is the first message I've seen from Kurt. All right, we have an expert here, expert evidence that he hasn't murdered any girls that have rejected him. I mean, but that's the point. And that's why it's important to think about this stuff is like, what does it really mean? Like, is there a connection? Do they know each other? This is not enough, but it feels like a leak that's frustrating with this gag order that we are trying so hard to prevent. We're trying so hard to let some of this, and when I say it hasn't been scrutinized, I mean, it hasn't been cross-examined or looked at by the defense yet. The defense hasn't had an opportunity to rebut it or to poke a hole in it. So that's what's frustrating about this stuff. But everybody was messaging me about this. So I wasn't planning on talking about it, but I decided let's come in, let's hit these DMs real quick, talk about how they could actually be used. They could be important, and a good prosecutor could use them and a jury could hold on to them. But it's far from a rock solid motive, in my opinion. All right, let's get to a few questions here before we jump to the next topic. Sue, Peter, I'm so bad with Instagram and Twitter, so I hope I forwarded you something that to you that I hope you understand. I just don't know what I am doing. LOL. Sue, I'm not positive, but if you are the one, somebody sent me, I think with a strange Twitter name, the actual document that I am going to read later with the unsealed search warrant. SP Pixels, new member, Fort Myers, Florida, right here in the backyard. First time live. Love your site. Thank you so much, SP. LA Haney is a new member. Bunch of new members today too. Jane Doe, we keep growing that membership before Friday is going to be fun. Firefly, a warrant for his apartment has been unsealed with a list of items removed. We're going to get to what they found, how they got to those items, right? And we're going to talk about why this got unsealed at this point. I haven't read it, but I assume they had to file a motion to unseal these documents. Janelle, hello, Peter in chat. Alex Murdaugh gives me a bad vibe. So you guys know I'm usually as respectful as possible and as kind as I can be and as gracious I can possibly be, because I would always want that to me if somebody was looking at it. It's tough for me with Alex Murdaugh, but we still have to presume him innocent, and we'll talk about that more on the next one. Lindsay's going to like the split topics, but we're testing them out today. Thank you, Sarah Bellum. By the way, not sponsored, but in honor of Flo Rida and his $80+ million verdict here in Florida, having a Celsius today. They need it. Kaiza Chi, possibility BK met the killer through his survey and went with him with her document, either joining in or not. May not know real name. Different types, 2 people. Reason for sealing? No, definitely not the reason for sealing. If they unsealed it now, because if they unsealed it now, that means the public threat is gone, which means, which we already talked about, if Brian Koberger's in custody without bail, the threat to public safety and the privacy stuff, all that's gone, which is, I assume, going to be in this motion to unseal. Okay. Can you explain waiving your Fifth Amendment? I heard it talked about in Rittenhouse when Binger got yelled at. Did BK waive Fifth when eager to be exonerated statement? So no, you don't waive your Fifth Amendment right if your lawyer makes a statement on your behalf. What Binger got yelled at was basically saying and condemning Kyle Rittenhouse for invoking his Fifth Amendment. I don't remember the exact statement that was said, but in trials, you're not allowed to infer that they're guilty or infer that they're hiding something by invoking their Fifth Amendment right. You're not allowed to do that in a criminal case. Now, it's funny because in civil cases, if they invoke their Fifth Amendment right, you're allowed to do exactly that. Connie, thank you so much. Come again, say what? A bunch of people asking, am I going to go over the search warrant? Yes. After I talk about Murdaugh, then we're going to go over the search warrant. And we're going to jump to Murdaugh here in just a couple minutes. Amanda Blackburn, that would be a heck of a bad reaction to a rejected DM. Tell me about it. Tell me about it, Amanda. I mean, come on. That can't really be what we think of, that's enough, right? Lisa Boris, Peter, do you think unsealing is so the parents can get some information? Potentially. I don't think that's the main reason that they did it, but we'll hold those questions for the third part. Anna P. I suspect they unsealed it because they wanted to end the speculation around a co-defendant. And again, Anna, some people may roll their eyes and be like, yeah, right. Like they care about what we're talking about on YouTube or social media or whatever. I think a lot of this stuff, it is being affected by that. And these leaks, they're answering the why. What's the motive? Well, we have leaks of DMs now. Well, the speculation, is there a co-defendant or why are they sealing this stuff? It doesn't make sense. It seems like all this stuff is already done. Well, now they're unsealing it. Ryan Blackhawk, welcome to the crew. Hello, Kitty. Sis Heath. Kathy and Axel, my yaya says places that sell goats are not vegan. Oh, is that lamb? Places that sell lamb are not vegan. Yeah. Yeah. I'm a vegetarian. That's okay. I make lamb. So those are Greek jokes. Tell your yaya I said hello. Tina Crichton, thanks for the super sticker. I know, Stacy. I'm sorry. Can we skip to the third part? So here's the real reason we're holding it third, not to like tease it or try to keep people around or whatever. I'm downloading the document still. I haven't really looked at it. So I want to get through these two and then we'll read it for the first time together because I kind of have these in the forefront of my mind and I don't want to throw the whole thing off. I understand, Stacy, if you're frustrated by that, and I apologize. Shelly Nelson, thanks for the super sticker. We are almost done here. Okay. So just live, laugh, love frugally. It's not only the reject, it's also the stalking. So they're building a story, right? And they're putting a picture together, but it's not even a reject at this point. If you never knew somebody DM'd you, did you reject them? Reject is an active term in my opinion. Not even knowing they're there is more passive. So I just don't think we know these things yet. And I don't think we know that it was stalking yet, right? I've driven by places way more than 12 times that I'm not stalking. Azam, what's up? Thanks for the super sticker. You going to be around for the triple header today? Kathy Hendricks is a new member, and Suzanne Martin. All right, just a couple more questions here before we jump to Murdaugh. Marty Ferguson, off topic, sorry. Almost 2 weeks smoke-free now. Marty, keep pushing. Keep pushing. John Garner, thanks for the super sticker. Kat Johnson and Emily, I want to say Bates, but that's wrong. Oh, Bettis is also a new member. All right. So we've hit the DMs. We've hit how they affect motive. We talked about how a prosecutor can use them, how a defense attorney is going to use them. Let's talk a little bit more now about prosecutors and defense attorneys on the Murdaugh case. Hit that like button on your way out. We are going to automatically redirect you. Going to have to hit like again if you want to. Anna P., how does it change if the DM was sent to a surviving victim? Like beforehand? I mean, to me, that even looks even more like a random connection at a party that maybe they've met before and he was trying to talk to him. Again, pure speculation. So not positive. Peter, quick question. How do they know that this is his Instagram account? There's too many fake accounts up there. I assume they're going to be able to authenticate it. And again, this is why it's annoying that it's a leak, because this could just go away and never actually be a thing. And that's what's really annoying about all the speculation and the leaks. So I understand. And, we try not to go too far down these roads on things that we don't know are actually facts that are going to come in this case. But I assume if they're going to use it, they're going to have to authenticate it. And this is going to be something that the defense can fight to prove that it actually is him. I've had lots of people send me screenshots of Brian Koberger following multiple victims, but not all the victims. And again, we don't necessarily know if it's the case. Okay, I'm going to end this broadcast, start the other one. You should be redirected, but if you're not, check for the Murdaugh video. We're going to hit that for maybe 15, 20 minutes, and then we'll get to the big kahuna. Wendy, thanks for joining on our way out.